Okay, let's talk about something crucial: protecting your profits when you're shipping goods across the ocean. Today, we're going to break down how this one specialist, someone you probably haven't even heard of, can be the single most important person saving your business from a really costly and honestly a totally avoidable shipping disaster.
So what is the biggest hidden risk out there? When you think about dangers at sea, your mind probably jumps to pirates or these massive storms, right? But the real threat, the one that can actually sink your business, it's a lot quieter than that. It's all about what happens, or more importantly, what doesn't happen, way before your cargo even gets loaded onto the ship. It really just boils down to a few critical failures that are so often overlooked.
First up, there's the absolute nightmare scenario for anyone shipping goods. Just imagine it. Your product finally arrives at its destination, thousands of miles away, but it's completely ruined, crushed, waterlogged, and totally unsellable.
And just when you think it can't get any worse, it does. You think, okay, no big deal. That's what I have insurance for. So you file a claim, but then you get that dreaded letter back telling you, sorry, you're not covered. The very safety net you paid for is just gone.
And then there's the real long-term damage. We're talking about the hit to your reputation with your buyer. Broken contracts, lost future business. This, right here, is often the costliest loss of all, and it's the absolute hardest to bounce back from.
So how in the world do you defend your investment against all these risks piling up? Well, you don't just cross your fingers and hope for the best. You get an independent expert on your side, right there on the ground.
Think of a marine cargo surveyor as your own personal quality control agent at the port. They're a totally neutral, third-party guardian for your shipment, and their entire job is to make sure everything is done exactly right before it gets sealed up and sent across the world. But, their job is so much more than just a simple inspection. For a first-time buyer or seller, the surveyor's report is what builds that critical trust. They're not just ticking boxes on a form, they're the independent expert who verifies that what was promised is exactly what's being shipped, and that it's secured properly to actually survive the journey.
And this brings us to a really critical point of failure. See, a lot of shippers work under this dangerous assumption. They believe their standard packaging is good enough. But as we're about to see, that simple little assumption can turn into a multi-thousand-dollar mistake, fast.
Just look at this. You can see the huge gap between what people think and the harsh reality of shipping. Just because your packaging meets some generic standard on land doesn't mean it's ready for the humidity, the constant motion, and the wild temperature swings of a specific sea route. And here's the real kicker. Without a surveyor's report to prove you did everything right, you have no evidence. Your insurance company can just walk away, and there's nothing you can do. And hey, don't just take my word for it. That's a direct warning from an expert in the field. Insurance companies specifically write exclusions for these kinds of preventable mistakes. Your policy is not a safety net if you haven't done the basic, foundational work of packing and stowing correctly. This is exactly where a surveyor's experience is just invaluable. They think about the entire journey. Take this for example, something called container rain. A shipper in a cold country might never even think about the hot, humid air their container is going to run into at its destination. But a surveyor, they anticipate this. They recommend simple, cheap solutions like desiccants, those little packets that absorb moisture, and that can save your entire cargo from being ruined.
Okay, so let's get to the bottom line. It's really easy to look at a surveyor as just another line item expense. But how does hiring one actually make you more money?
When you actually look at the numbers, it becomes crystal clear. That surveyor fee is a tiny, tiny fraction compared to the potential loss of an entire shipment's value. And that's not even counting all the follow-on costs. It's the classic case of an ounce of prevention being worth a pound of cure.
So this really requires a fundamental shift in how you think about things. Instead of trying to boost your profit by cutting corners on essentials like packaging, you invest in loss prevention. It's simple, really. By reducing your losses, you're directly protecting your turnover and increasing your overall profit.
A surveyor's report is basically the key that unlocks this whole path. It gives you the objective evidence you need to stop common losses before they even happen. And it serves as that crucial piece of proof you need to make sure that if something does go wrong, your insurance claim actually gets paid.
Okay, so you're sold, you need a surveyor. But how do you find one? How do you find a qualified, trustworthy expert, especially when they might be working in a foreign country halfway across the globe?
Honestly, your best bet is to tap into dedicated professional communities. Look for organizations like the International Institute of Marine Surveyors or specialized groups on LinkedIn.
These are the places where experts build their reputations. You can't just buy your way into these communities. You get in based on proven expertise and being verified by your peers.
And you'd probably be surprised at how fast and efficient this whole thing is. A typical survey, including the on-site inspection, all the follow-up calls and emails, and the final detailed report with photos, can often be done and in your hands within just 48 hours. At the end of the day, it really all comes down to this one question. Without an expert's eyes on your cargo before it ships, you're basically just rolling the dice. Bringing in a marine cargo surveyor, that transforms your shipment from a complete gamble into a protected investment. And in the world of global trade, that's really the only way to play the game.